Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I have another sketchbook flip through to show you today. This sketchbook is a pentalic nature sketch and it's sort of a weird situation with this sketchbook because I filled half of it back in 2016 and then filled the other half of it just recently in 2018. So I will show you the whole sketchbook, but about halfway through it's going to be completely different, and I hope you like the two sides of my art practice that are represented here. Someone in a previous video asked me how I went about learning creature anatomy and studying how to draw animals, and the first half of this sketchbook is going to explain that. So I used this sketchbook when I was doing my animal anatomy class with Terrell Whitlatch. She is a creature designer and concept artist who worked on movies like Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, and I love her work a lot. I love the love that she puts into her drawings, the attention to detail, the immense knowledge that she has, and she's also an incredibly nice person and a wonderful teacher. So I really enjoyed this class, and I think this class, which I took on schoolism.com, really taught me most of what I know about creature anatomy. So if you're looking to study that, there's no better way than having someone who actually knows their stuff, explaining it to you and providing you with personalized critique. So I'll have to scooch this sketchbook back and forth quite a lot just to show you everything because it's so long, but I really like the format for drawing creatures because I find animals are usually a little longer than they are tall. So these are just some sketches from the zoo. This is a rock hyrax. I love those guys. And in here I also have my class notes. So during the initial lectures for each section I would make notes and copy the drawings from the slides. So some of these drawings are just copies of Terrell's drawings, and I'll show you what I did for each assignment with this guy here. I won't peel them all off because I have, you know, sort of taped them all like crazy, but basically what we did for every assignment was to draw first a rough drawing of the animal that you're designing, so you're really creating these animals from your own mind, and then you draw a nice drawing of the skeleton and label it, and then you draw all the muscles and you label those, and then you draw the surface layer, and then after this I would take it into Photoshop and color it digitally. But that's what I did for every week of the class, going through all of the modules, and it really helped me learn my stuff. So the first one we did was we combined an animal with a human. So I ended up making this beaver character. She's sort of a queen of the pond. And that one's one of the few in this sketchbook that's vertical, so that's going to be a little bit difficult to see. The next section ended up being fish. And fish are really diverse, so we sort of focused on fish as well as amphibians and reptiles. So here are some of my sketch pages that I handed in. Some more over here. Most of these are done just photo reference that I found online. And then I started deciding which animals I wanted to combine for the module, and I created this character who is the blue-tongued skink mixed with a blue rockfish. So I combined them based on their names, and I called this guy the skinkfish. So this is him. He's probably my favorite creature that I made for this. And you can see the colored version of him on my portfolio website. The next lesson was birds and dinosaurs. So just some of my study sketches here. I went to a pet store and took some photos there. I started designing my creature that I wanted to make for the class, and I called him Pelagicolestes, which means open ocean robber. So he's a mix of oceanic pelagic birds and an Ornitholestes. So he was a fun creature. Here are some Dinosaurs, and this paper was quite nice. It's about 130 pounds, so you can actually use it for watercolor. So I did that throughout the sketchbook a little bit. More birds on this side, and this was the final design of Pelagicolestes. And I really liked how his face turned out. There's a lot of cormorant influence in his design. Next up, we focused on cats and dogs. So these are just some studies I did of silken windhounds. A lot of the sketches I did were from photo reference, but I actually did go to a taxidermy museum for some of the modules, so you'll see some taxidermy interspersed throughout here. This one was a taxidermy lynx that I drew from. This is a taxidermy gray wolf and a taxidermy cougar. And then I created a bird-cat hybrid that I called a pine lion. So my idea was that he had adaptations in his feet to climb trees and lived his life arboreally. Next lesson was ungulates, which are hoofed animals, and these are some of my favorite animals. Just overall, I love ungulates. I think they're beautiful, they're so much fun to draw. And again, this is a mix of drawings I did at the zoo from some of the zoo's animals and of taxidermy from a taxidermy museum. These are some caribou who were kind enough to lie in the sun for me. There's another drawing of the caribou. I did some skull studies. I do own a mule deer skull, so I reference that quite frequently. Here are some more ungulates from the zoo. They have some alpacas. And more from the zoo, we have some Chicoan peccaries and Bactrian camels. On this side, Japanese Siro and the markhor. These are all from the zoo. There's a great selection of ungulates at the zoo near me, which was really fun. Drew some sketches of horses. This horse is really long. Whoops. And then I started deciding what sort of ungulate creature I wanted to make. I played with ideas of tapirs and deer and horses, and in the end I mixed a deer with a horse, which was really fun. He ended up being like a cute little, yeah, I think he's really nice. He's like a little deer pony. There was a whole section on elephants because they're so strange. And also because they get turned into a lot of movie creatures. They have a long history in cinema, and they keep showing up in cinema. For example, all of those Oliphants in The Lord of the Rings. So we had a whole section on elephants and did my sketches here. And then I decided to combine a mastodon with a beaked whale, and I created an aquatic creature for this module, which I thought was pretty fun. I thought a lot about how the bones would have evolved from a terrestrial mastodon to something aquatic. So you can see here, unlike a whale, it does still have a fully formed pelvis, but it has the squished and fused arm bones of a whale based on the shape of arm bones of a mastodon. So the rest of this was sketches for a narrative illustration, which was sort of our final project, our final test, and also a few sketch assignments of difficult poses with animals. So just thinking about the anatomy in a slightly more abstract way, or anatomy when the animal doesn't show it very clearly, like a sheep, or a bird, which is always covered in feathers. A few more sketches here. And then very briefly, I used this sketchbook for some school projects. So this was sort of a strange Andrewsarchus drawing and some Eohippus, or I think as they're known now, Sipharhippus, which I kind of like that name. I like that name quite a lot, Sipharhippus. Just a few Homo neanderthalis sketches that I did. And some dinosaurs. So that's sort of where the first half of the sketchbook ends. And then just last week, basically, fast forward to March 2018, that's a big gap. I just felt like doing some calligraphy. So I'll show you what that turned out like. I kind of just basically wrote out movie titles and book titles of media that I enjoy. I also did a few, like, just names of characters from various projects of mine. But these are all just done with a Asian calligraphy pen that I just got for $4 at the art store, and various watercolors. So this is black watercolor. It's not ink. I prefer how watercolor handles, so I just sort of stuck with what I was comfortable with, which let me focus on the lettering. And if you recognize any of these book titles or movie titles and you like them, definitely let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to know, if you like sci-fi as much as I do, because I think a lot of these are just science fiction titles, movies from directors that I like, stuff like that. So I just played around for the end of this sketchbook, and I'm sorry it keeps flipping and everything. It is a very odd format to be filming, and I think I'm not going to edit out the flipping. That'd be kind of overkill. But yeah, I think it's really fun to sort of use a different brush and work on a different style. I do quite a bit of illustrated type for my projects. I like the look and the feel of it, but it was fun to basically just finally finish this sketchbook by practicing. So that was really fun. I switched to some blue watercolor here, which added a lot of densities to the letters. These are just some characters of mine that you might have seen in sketchbooks, but I don't normally talk about them on this channel. If you'd like me to talk about the characters that I use for projects, let me know. I just don't want this to become the, I don't know. It's more about the art than it is about the fake people, if that makes sense. I mean, obviously the art should be conveying what sort of people they are and stuff like that, but it's more about look at the art and less about like, listen to me talk about these characters that live in my brain. I am working on a novel. I don't know if that's going to go anywhere, but I do a lot of writing. But as I said in previous videos, I think art is kind of my primary function. So this is the book I'm reading right now. It's a nonfiction book about exoplanets called 5 Billion Years of Solitude. It's really interesting. And I really like A Clockwork Orange. That's one of my favorite books and favorite films too. Ubik by Philip K. Dick is also a really great book. And that's the end. I hope you enjoyed this sort of odd format sketchbook. It's like half creature design, half illustrated type. So sort of different than what I've been working on recently, but gives you a little bit of insight into what I like and how I learn. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!